And good evening, everyone. Welcome to the second edition of the MCU ReVU. I am your host, Elliot Serrano, joined by my co-host, Dave Pino. How you doing, Dave?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm well. John Clark is on his way. I think he got held up by a couple things here. But as soon as he arrives, we're going to have him. Oh, wait. Say his name 3 times, and he appears. How you doing, John?
Good. I've never been introduced as Beetlejuice before. Feel really good about that. Any Michael Keaton reference is okay with me.
Anyone that works. All right. So we are the MCU ReVU Trio, where every week we go back into the Marvel Cinematic Universe and review a film from the very beginnings. In fact, the further along we go, soon we'll get up closer to the present. But last episode, we talked about Iron Man. Today, we're going to be talking about The Incredible Hulk. And if you have not had a chance to watch our episode where we talked about Iron Man with special guest Brian Moore, formerly of the Chicago Red Eye, you can watch it on any of the art pages where the videos are archived. You can watch it here on the Facebook page, if that's where you're watching us, or on Twitch, or on YouTube, all three. And guess what? You can also tell your smart speaker, play Caffeinated Comics MCU ReVU, and you'll get to hear the official podcast. So we're coming at you everywhere. We're in your eyes, we're in your ears, we're going in every orifice we can, I think.
That got ugly.
It got pretty ugly. But anyway, so we do have another guest today to talk about The Incredible Hulk. I am very happy to be able to bring him on board. Wait, Susan, welcome, Susan. Welcome, Lehman. Thank you for joining us here on the Facebook page. I see you're joining us on the Facebook live stream. If you're watching us on Twitch, please feel free to comment. If you're watching us on YouTube, feel free to comment. Let us know you're here. If you're watching us on any of the pages, please give us a like, share, subscribe, pass the word on. But as I was saying, I'm really happy with the guests that we have today. I've gotten to pretty much take over booking for the first few shows. So yeah, I know John's got guests.
Right, I have 3 friends. They're coming.
Yeah. And Dave's got friends and guests that will be coming up. But this show is especially going to be just as much fun for me as last week because I'm bringing on someone who's very near and dear to my heart. He's my brother from another mother, Brandon Jerwa.
Yeah, that's me. Is this show available on Viewmaster? I'd like to watch it on Viewmaster.
I think we will be releasing slides. It'll be on like that you could watch it, like show it with your vacation pictures. So. Brandon, for folks who may not be familiar with Brandon, Brandon is a comic book writer, video game writer, worked in all sorts of multimedia. I actually first met Brandon way back when he was the featured writer on G.I. Joe. You wrote G.I. Joe for a bit. And stop me if I'm lying, Brandon, because I had been interning at Devil's Due while you were writing G.I. Joe for them. And then when I finally met you for the first time, my first words were, "Oh, you're that guy that everybody's been talking about."
No, yeah, that's true. That is true. You know what? True story. I forgot that you interned at Devil's Due. We've been friends so long beyond that and have so much context unto our own friendship. No joke, completely forgot that you had any connection to Devil's Due. I'm like, that's not a setup for a joke. Like, until you said it, not in my head.
They never paid me, so I really don't have like any outside of a couple of people there who I feel very loyal to. Beyond that, it was a time.
We've been friends for a long time. We've written things together.
Yep.
Worked on Army of Darkness, Xena book together. And I just wanted to say that after all these years, thank you so much for reaching out to me and asking me to come on a show and talk about a truly mediocre movie. Thanks, buddy. Missed you so much. Hey, you other two guys, nice to meet you. Do you have friends? I'm looking for new friends.
Yes, we are two potential friends.
Excellent.
And I love that we've just jumped into trashing this movie.
Sorry. I mean, I'll reveal my opinions later.
Well, hey, let's jump into it. I know we've got a lot to talk about. The Incredible Hulk was released in 2008, starring Edward Norton, Liv Tyler, Tim Roth, Ty Burrell, Tim Blake Nelson, and William Hurt, working off a screenplay by Zach Penn and directed by Louis Leterrier. Leterrier? That's how I always want to pronounce it.
It's French for the terrier.
Yeah, Leterrier, right. This was the follow-up, came out the same year as Iron Man, the first Iron Man film, and was the second link in the chain showing a cohesive, they want to be a cohesive Marvel universe where the characters from one movie can appear in another. And interestingly enough, if you go to Disney Plus, they now have all the Marvel one-shots that they've made over time, including the post-credit sequence from this particular film. They turned it into a complete Marvel one-shot. They expanded the context of why Tony Stark was going into that bar to talk to Thunderbolt Ross, a drunken William Hurt, who, William Hurt, I'm telling you, he at least, hey, he got to stick around. He, if anything can be said, he got to stick around as his character, unlike others in this film. I actually feel bad for Phil Dunphy, who, I get, why should I? I mean, he does go on to pretty much, become a hit in Modern Family, and the guy will never have to work again because of the royalties he'll get from that show endlessly playing in syndication. So I shouldn't feel, but he could have been Doc Samson. I had no idea he was Samson. He was actually playing that character because did they ever say his name?
No, did they?
Yep.
I missed that. I when I was going back to put the credits together for this, I said, "Holy crap, he's okay. He's Leonard Samson. All right, okay." Anywho, so it's the second film. Edward Norton plays Bruce Banner. Liv Tyler plays Betty Ross, and hilarity ensues. I'm going to kick this one over to Dave, who last episode hardly got a word in edgewise. So I'm going to kick it over to you, Dave. What were your impressions of the Incredible Hulk? Did you get a chance to see it more? Did you watch it more recently, or are you just going by previous?
Yeah, I watched it. My wife and I watched it 2 nights ago, I think.
Oh man, that wife of yours deserves battle pay.
Are you still together?
Yeah, miraculously.
It was a rough 48 hours.
48 hours, yeah. She had never seen it before. It was the only Marvel movie MCU movie she had not seen. And I think last week or a couple weeks ago when we talked about Iron Man, I think I mentioned that Eternals is the only one. I haven't seen it at all, but it's also the only one I hadn't seen in theaters. I don't remember seeing this one in theaters, but I know I saw it. Like I have no memory of going into a theater in 2008 and seeing this movie, but I had seen it prior to a couple nights ago. Full disclosure, summer of 2008, I was all about The Dark Knight. So Iron Man was a nice sort of appetizer, and then Dark Knight was what I was looking forward to. So Incredible Hulk was very easy to overlook or just kind of forget about in the mix of everything else. But it's all right. It's not one of the better Marvel movies, but I don't think it's like some train wreck. That's the thing.
That goes on the DVD box right there.
Yeah.
That's the tagline. Not one of the better movies, but it's not a train wreck.
I feel like one of the reasons it gets dismissed or just kind of written off by a lot of people is because it was Edward Norton's only appearance as Bruce Banner, and people think, he did one movie, he must have been crappy, and they fired him. And Not, it's kind of like a George Lazenby situation, right? Elliot or a Timothy Dalton situation. There's this big sprawling franchise, and he only managed to, stick around for one movie. Edward Norton is a fantastic actor, though. And I think we kind of alluded to this when we did. I think he's a better actor than Mark Ruffalo, who I also think is kind of annoying in real life. But going into Iron Man last week, I think I had mentioned that, or we talked about how if Edward Norton had stuck around throughout the whole MCU, he would have brought a very different sort of energy and feel to the Bruce Banner character. And I said that, or we talked about that, and this was me having not watched this movie in probably since it came out. So 13, 14 years ago. But it's definitely true. Right? It's he's very different type of Bruce Banner take on the character than what Mark Ruffalo winds up delivering. But it is interesting to think about, regardless of what you think about this movie, sort of an alternate universe where he stuck around and how different the Hulk and the depiction of him might have been going forward throughout the rest of the the Avengers movies and then Ragnarok and so forth. But yeah, I full disclosure, I'm not going to go to bat and say this is some underappreciated masterpiece, but it's watchable. It's not like I just want to blow my brains out watching it, but it's not as bad as Thor: The Dark World. I'll say that.
It's justifiably appreciated, I think is what you mean, Dave.
Yes,
it's not underappreciated. It's certainly not overappreciated.
Yes.
John?
I hadn't watched this in a really long time, and I watched it last night. I agree with you, Dave. It's not a bad movie, and it's fine. And it was reminding me of how we were talking about with Iron Man, how that so exceeded expectations that Marvel went in going like, we only want to make movies that are about as big as Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer. If we can do that, we're fine. That's exactly what the Hulk does. It's as good as Fantastic Four. The thing that really struck me about it this time watching it is the MCU is this huge, gigantic machine, and we're at the ground floor. And in Iron Man, you really feel this kind of seismic change of we're going to make movies differently. With Hulk, it's almost looking backwards, even though it's starting this whole franchise, because there's so many Easter eggs to the Bill Bixby show. Lou Ferrigno's in it. There's so many hints. There's also this it's almost like the James Gunn Suicide Squad, where it's kind of a sequel to the Ang Lee Hulk, but if you don't want it to be, it isn't, and if you do want it to be, it is. So it's already got it already feels like a sequel to stuff that doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Rather than setting a foundation for what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's definitely better than the Ang Lee Hulk.
I'll say that.
I remember even as a kid watching that and sitting in a theater, and so many movies you see as a kid, and then you're blown away by them just because you're an impressionable kid and you revisit them years later. Even as a kid, I remember sitting through this is a piece of crap. There was nothing I liked about that movie.
Ang Lee thought making a comic book adaptation was actually putting panels on the screen.
Yeah,
that's what people like, right? That there are boxes on a page. We'll just do that.
It's kind of like this show right now. Yeah.
Ang Lee did this show, actually.
Yeah. Hence the production values. Lehman chiming in. John's Hulk looks really groovy. Man, John's bringing all the props.
Well, I realize my Marvel Legends collection is gigantic. So I think for every episode, I'm going to put one up here. And I was a little late, so I didn't have time to dig for actually, all the MCU Hulks are Mark Ruffalo's. So this is a comic book version, but he's as accurate because honestly, the design of Hulk in this isn't based on anyone. He looks like a Dale Keown piece of artwork. He does not look like Ed Norton, nor does he look like any actor. So this guy's probably as accurate as we would get from that movie.
Yeah. I did like that about when Mark Ruffalo took over, how when he hulked out, they kind of made him look like Mark Ruffalo just as this big monster. That was a cool touch. But yeah, he's much more nondescript design in this movie.
Yeah, it almost feels like they designed the Hulk, then cast Bruce Banner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the distinguishing features that Ed Norton would have to make it make the Hulk look like him. When you think about the nose.
Yeah,
The
long,
hawkish
blunt
nose?
nose. He's almost Adrian Brody like.
No.
It's like Adrian Brody with a nose job.
I can't see the Hulk though with that. Hulk's always like kind of a Frankenstein type, and his face is very blunt and all that.
Yeah,
kind of like a pug. Speaking of pugs, Brandon.
Wow. So what I'm hearing is that all green monsters look the same to you.
Green lives matter, Elliot.
Wow. This took a turn already. I have to agree with John. In fact, he kind of stole what I was going to say. In that I love comic books, obviously. I'm a huge Marvel fan. I loved Iron Man, but then I saw the Hulk. I'm like, oh, we're just going to keep making Fantastic Four and X-Men movies, right? Like, this is as good as we can ever do, and we should be thankful for it, right? Like, this is just great. But yeah, I really hated Ang Lee's Hulk. Hated. So I really wanted something more out of this, and it did deliver more objectively. Sure, it is a better movie. I loved Thunderbolt Ross. I love the sort of things of like they're like, why don't we take the subway? He's like, really? Like, that's a terrible idea. I'm going to turn into the Hulk and destroy the subway, right? There were some little things in there that I enjoyed, little thoughts of where they actually tried to show some logic and real world, like what would you actually do if you turned into a green monster? But like Ed Norton is a far less compelling Hulk than the Ruffalo. Pardon me. I think I like Mark Ruffalo much better. But this seemed like a leftover superhero movie from the times before, but we didn't know all the goodness that was going to happen after. So for me, it was just like, well, okay, hopefully the next thing is better. And then they announced the Avengers, and the Avengers are my favorite thing. And I was like, well, they said the Hulk's going to be in it. I don't know how to feel about that. And luckily they, managed to turn that around and give us something much better. But yeah, this was a real bad early step for me, and kind of shook my confidence in what we were going to get, because Iron Man was just so good.
Right. And to Dave's point, 2008 is a summer where we got Iron Man, we got The Dark Knight, we even got Indiana Jones. This was, I don't think I saw Hulk. I think I just bought the Blu-ray when it came out, but I don't think I went to it because there was just so much to see that summer.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I missed that, Brandon.
Oh, I'm not sure I saw it in a theater either. Yeah, I don't have any recollection of it. I remember angrily seeing that Ang Lee movie in a theater. And if I could trade that experience for the other, I'd definitely do it. But, for me, I think that the one thing that we are learning now, just to jump ahead a little bit, is that, like, the things about the Hulk that are appealing to the regular audience and not the comic book audience are going to wear real thin real quick. He turns into a monster. He has to hide from the government. And I think we've seen now with the Marvel movies that the weirder we make the Hulk and the crazier the situations we put him into and dig more into his bigger universe, the better off and more interesting a character he is, ultimately.
I mean, when you consider that they were pretty much able to discard almost his entire supporting cast, with the exception of Thunderbolt Ross, it's like, again, I was like, wow. I'm watching it. I did see Incredible Hulk in the theater. I remember it was pretty much the same experience on the review as well as then. I remember the first half hour, I was along for the ride. I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. Yeah, it's funny. They got you throw in the scene of Bill Bixby, courtship of Eddie's father. Oh yeah, you got to have a scene where they play the original Hulk theme. The Zach Penn, who writes the script, even does the bit where, okay, if you want to know that your guy is a good guy, what do? Have him take care of a dog. Bruce Banner's caring for the little doggy in his little hovel where he's staying. How can you tell who the bad guy is? The bad guy shoots the dog, which is what Tim Roth does. Although they do make sure to show a quick scene to establish that the dog has just been tranquilized, not killed. He's just been tranquilized, and go from there. But I still hated him. Then you have this. Then you get the chase, the inevitable chase, where he goes into the soda factory, and it becomes a universal ride at that point. I felt like, oh, this would be like if we did a Jurassic Park style ride, but with the Hulk, we're going through a factory and the Hulk is running, boom, boom, and we're in our little car trying to get away from him and so on. Then the wheels kind of like fall off, as you say. The logic starts falling apart. The character motivations start making no sense. Email Blonsky. He suddenly it's not that he wants to take down the Hulk. It's no, you don't deserve this kind of power. And somehow Ross has somehow Ross has some of the super soldier serum in his possession. He's had forever. And it's like, okay, but that's not good. Well, which seems kind of silly at the time. And then flash forward to Falcon and Winter Soldier when everybody's getting the freaking super soldier serum. So, I guess they kind of paved over that little speed bump of a plot line. But then that's not enough. And then you introduce this other character later on who is not only going to help Blonsky turn into the Abomination, but I guess was supposed to become the leader himself.
Oh, yeah, Tim Blake Nelson's character. Yeah, it's so weird because initially that was like an Easter egg where my friends that were watching it with me, like, did you see his head? And I was like, no, I never noticed it. And in this one, I'm like, that is a very deliberate shot of his pulsing it. But with the MCU being what it is, there is no reason they don't have to bring Tim Blake Nelson back in something. We're doing a She-Hulk show. We'll have more Avengers. You can have the leader anywhere. So this movie, the fact that we brought Thunderbolt Ross back, that is a plot line that's been lying around for 13, 14 years. But it's not beyond Marvel to go back and do that.
And Tim Roth is supposed to be coming back for the She-Hulk show as well.
Yeah. Yep. And he was in, the Abomination at least was in Shang-Chi.
So, yeah. Well, but man, Liv Tyler, done. And again, that whole thing, it just, wow, he really loved Betty Ross so much that he's completely forgotten about her and is now in love with Natasha. Throughout the they just dropped that entirely, which somebody help me here. Is the Incredible Hulk movie considered canon in the MCU? Or does it fall in with the Netflix television shows?
Well, the Netflix television shows seem like they count more. I mean, in the last month, Charlie Cox is Daredevil again, Vincent D'Onofrio is Kingpin again. So I don't think anything. They don't do anything that negates this, and I feel like they make sure they don't break the continuity of it. You don't have to go back. It's not going to become the most important thing in it, but I think it still counts. I mean, Tony Stark is in it. Thunderbolt Ross comes back a bunch of times. In Avengers, Mark Ruffalo said the last time I was in New York, I broke Harlem. So, which is a direct line to the end of this. So there's nothing in it that makes it not count.
All right.
I'm sorry.
No, actually, no. And I that's a really good point. That's the other part of my problem with this movie is that there's nothing significant about it, right? Like there's nothing to break because there's nothing that truly matters. I would hate to think that they wasted the leader like that because the leader's a great villain.
And Tim Blake Nelson is a great actor.
Absolutely. But, they didn't give us much to work with there. So that's still a clean slate. I'd love for him to come back in a different context.
Yes, a college professor is going to cure Bruce Banner of his gamma radiation poisoning. When all the most brilliant minds in the military industry and everywhere else couldn't do it. But this one dude, this one hippie dude, he's got the answers. Oh, but not even the most reliable equipment. He's got centrifuges and machinery that's breaking down in the middle of the procedure.
Oh yeah, he's a mad scientist.
Yeah.
There's a Doctor Who-ishness to Samuel Stearns in this, but the email exchanges are right out of the Bruce Jones run of the Hulk. Mr. Blue and Mr. Green was a long-running plot line, and I guess it's the early to mid 2000s. So they were definitely pulling from that, and I don't remember if Mr. Blue ended up being the leader or somebody else.
I just can't get over that they were thinking at some point we're going to make Phil Dunphy Doc Samson.
I could see if Taika Waititi directs another Hulk. Yes, I can see it. If Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster kind of way.
I don't know. You get to bulk up. I mean, seriously, I don't know.
It'd be amazing if he didn't. right? Though, like he's Doc Samson, but he's just Phil Dunphy with green hair, right?
And a red, tight-fitting red T-shirt with a yellow lightning bolt across the front. I'm gonna admit, I am a Doc Samson stan. I love me some Doc Samson. The most ridiculous origin of any of the Marvel, the Hulk, foils.
What is his origin again?
He's like, oh, the Hulk. It's essentially he's jealous of Bruce Banner. The same kind of motivations that Tim Roth's character had in this movie. Leonard Samson has like this guy's got all this power. He doesn't know what to do with it. He intentionally, exposes himself to gamma radiation, and automatically, boom, buff and green. The worst part of the whole thing is his hair is green. That's it.
And his skin is not.
And his skin. He keeps his intellect. He's actually not a bad looking dude. All right. And he has all this power. And he's like, oh yeah, now I know. Now I understand this whole thing about this kind of power and why Banner can't deal with it and blah, blah, blah. But still, there's no downside to being Doc Samson, if you ask me. So.
Well, look at the character of She-Hulk. Jennifer Walters thinks there's no downside to being She-Hulk. She doesn't want to go back to her human form. And, they've done Savage She-Hulk every now and then, but it never really stuck. It's been more of that Dan Slott, John Byrne, where she's really smart and sassy, which makes me wonder how they're going to treat it in She-Hulk, because both Abomination and Mark Ruffalo are going to be in that. So I feel like out of most of the people that get hit with gamma rays, Bruce Banner's the one that just got the shit end of the stick.
Well, now he's Smart Hulk though, so it doesn't. He's cool, and he's obviously changing back into himself,
right?
As we saw in the Shang-Chi post-credit scene. So. He's learned to deal with it, whereas everybody else is like, whatever. No. I don't know. This movie, when people say that, last week or the last show, Brian Moore asked me, do I need to watch The Incredible Hulk to stay up to date and everything that's going on in the MCU? And I said, if you want to watch it, but you're really not missing anything if you don't. And Marvel has no plans right now to make another Hulk movie. And after
they can't.
Yeah. But still, it's like, why go to the trouble? Right? Because there's nothing that these movies really offer that you need to show. Because after the first 45 minutes of this one, I'd pretty much gotten everything I wanted. I got the Lou Ferrigno cameo. Oh yes. I even got the call back to the old Hulk cartoons where the army bring out the new type of weaponry that they're going to use on the Hulk on that particular episode. The sonic blaster. Like, oh man, I remember those from the cartoons. Yeah, Matt, I don't need it anymore. Anyone want to disagree with that?
No. I mean, I've never been the biggest Hulk fan. I believe I read all Peter David's run, and I would sample it now and then. But I think what they're doing with the Hulk is kind of what I like about the Hulk, is that he shows up in other people's movies and he makes things more complicated. But they also Disney does not have the rights to make a Hulk movie. Universal still has them, which is why anybody who watched this for this podcast had to go and buy it, because it's not on Disney Plus. And so it's kind of like a Spider-Man deal for Disney. They can use the Hulk in their movies, but they can't make a Hulk movie. And people don't need a Hulk movie as much as they need another Spider-Man movie.
Oh, good news, by the way. We talked about this in the last show. Crackle is showing all the previous Spider-Man films. They've put them out there now.
Wait, are you saying Crackle still exists?
Yes, it does. But you're right. Sony does not own it anymore. But that platform's still there, and the Spider-Man movies are out there right now. I don't know how long that's going to be for, but they are out there.
You guys think that, kind of to your point, John, about Hulk being sort of like a supporting character, do you think Hulk works or can work as just a standalone film? Because there have been two as like the focus of a standalone film, because there have been 2 Hulk movies so far. Obviously, one of them had nothing to do with the MCU, neither of which have been particularly good. I think the film that I enjoyed him the most in, I thought he was most entertaining as a character, was Ragnarok. But that's another one. He was kind of the supporting character in another hero's film. So unless you do a movie where you really kind of beef up the cast with a bunch of other big name characters and characters we already know, it just seems like, I'm not sure, and this is nothing against the Hulk as a character as he's written in the comics, but I'm not sure he's interesting enough to carry his own movie as a, kind of like in the way Iron Man is, or Captain America, or Black Panther. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I think he can work because Marvel knows that's their monster. So the thing that works about this movie for me is that they know it's a monster movie. Like once you get the Hulk and the Abomination, it's basically like Godzilla versus Kong. They're just going to smash into each other and smash up everything in their way. And obviously that's a genre that works. I think where they struggle is then taking a monster movie and integrating it into the rest of it. I think there is a potential great Hulk movie to be made. Otherwise, the character wouldn't have existed for as long as he had. Like that book has never been canceled. It's been going since Stan Lee created it. It's had some changes and some reboots, but it's not even like Doctor Strange or Ant-Man or Captain Marvel, where there's years where they don't bother even publishing those characters. And everyone knows who the Hulk is. So there's definitely the name recognition. We haven't gotten a great Hulk movie yet, but and if we never do, it doesn't really bother me. But I think the potential is there.
Yeah.
Brandon, I was interested in what you would think about this.
I think so too. But it kind of goes back to what I said earlier about taking the things from the comics and stuff that are much deeper lore than the world at large knows about Hulk smash, and ripping his pants and tearing up towns. Like, I think that to make him interesting, they would have to really lean into that stuff. And I don't know. I never thought there'd be a Boba Fett TV series either. So like, it's hard to say what the audience can digest at this point. And I should probably give them all a little more credit, but I feel like for me to find a Hulk movie interesting, they'd really have to go out of their way to go into space and other dimensions and all these other cosmic level things that the Hulk deals with in the comics and go into that psychological aspect. But that, I don't know if that would make for good popcorn movie making,
Hey, if James Bond can go into space, I don't see why the Hulk can't.
But did he do it successfully?
I say he did.
When I did the Shaken Not Hurt podcast and I asked you guys what Roger Moore movie to watch, and you both said Moonraker, and then by midnight that night I was never going to come on the show again. Like after the woman gets eaten by dogs. Like, really? This is the best.
Did I say Moonraker or did I say Octopussy? Because it
You
seems like
said Moonraker.
Okay, all right.
Moonraker's my
That
favorite.
would have been my stock answer.
Yeah, Dave's big on the Octopussy. I'm Moonraker. Brandon, you've written G.I. Joe, so you should know the military. You should know the military. Why is the goddamn military in this movie so goddamn stupid? I mean, it happens in every one of these. Or there's a Godzilla movie. As you were saying, John, Hulk is essentially, Godzilla of the MCU or of the Marvel. Yeah. And it's like, you shot at him. The bullets are bouncing off. All it's doing is pissing him off. Why do you keep doing that? It boggles my mind that in these movies, and it offends me as someone with 3 brothers who served in the military. It offends me that they make the military so freaking dumb. And Thunderbolt Ross, I know it's William Hurt chewing the scenery, and it's just that them trying to give him that, that character again from the comics, from the cartoons. But it just drives me nuts how they portray the military in these things.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And listen, working on G.I. Joe and having knowledge of the military are 2 wildly different things.
You were selling the military, man. I know some kids, they signed up because of your run.
well, thank you. A lot of soldiers don't wear football jerseys, just as a matter of course. Let me point that out. But no, I mean, like, that's the problem with these movies. It's the same with, Aliens and Predators and all that. They have to be dumb because we have lead characters who are monsters and who are not clever like the Hulk is now, right? And so in order for the dumb hero monster to succeed, everybody else has to do the dumbest things, and they have to keep trying despite the fact that they can see with their own eyes that what they're doing is not working, because otherwise the world is just going to go hide in their house all the time until the Hulk goes away, right? And that's probably not a very good movie either. I do love Thunderbolt Ross. I love that he's in there, and I hope he continues in the MCU. And if they do more with the Hulk, like, it's time to bring out the Hulkbusters. It's time to bring out, the people you've created to stop him, which of course they play with a little bit in this, with the super soldier serum and everything, but they would really have to take a focused, smart, superhuman approach to this. And after the Sokovia Accords, I'm not sure that they would be doing that.
I'm watching this movie, I'm going, Thunderbolt Ross is such a hypocrite. The amount of destruction that he alone was responsible for in Harlem, okay, that he created the abomination, that he's on this helicopter gunship, and he's telling his guy to open fire on the abomination in a crowded neighborhood. We're talking the collateral alone. The army was doing more harm than any of those two monsters were doing. Like, seriously.
Well, remember, that's Thunderbolt Ross before the heart attack. That's the first thing he says in Civil War. Right. He's like, well, I had a heart attack, and now I see things kind of differently.
Yep.
Wait, did William Hurt have a heart attack?
I don't know. I mean, he's still with us.
I know he's still with us. I'm just saying maybe there was like a little bit that he, threw that in to add a little dimension to the character.
But he is softened when he comes back. Because Thunderbolt Ross, I think they go half the way there, but in the comics, Thunderbolt Ross is just J. Jonah Jameson. He just hates the Hulk because he hates the Hulk. He has a mustache. He's screaming at everybody. Like, that was Stan's idea of a jerk. It's like, he has a mustache and he's yelling. I'm surprised Daredevil didn't have a judge with a mustache that struck down every case he brought in.
Guess I need to shave.
Yeah.
I just find it, anyway. I don't know. But then, of course, you get into the next part. I'm telling you guys, they're bringing back the Abomination moving forward. I know he and Wong is working with him in Shang-Chi. Does the Abomination know that? I mean, does Wong know that the Abomination has killed innocent people? Like, he kills his own people. Like, he kills, like, other servicemen at one point. Which I'm like, okay, are we going to do this whole thing where like in pro wrestling, they're a bad guy. We're going to do a heel turn, try to turn him into a good guy, but we're going to forget about all the terrible crap that they did before, kind of like we've done with Loki.
Or Magneto.
Yeah, Magneto had a point, though.
Yeah, but he was killing people.
He was.
John Wayne Gacy had a dog.
And you know how the good guy is.
David Berkowitz loved his dog. Everybody's got a side.
They had talks. You know what? The dog was the bad person in that relationship.
Most talking dogs are so friendly. Scooby-Doo never told you to kill anybody. He was stopping people dressed as ghosts.
Wow. We took a turn here. Dave, I need you to pull us out of this tailspin we're in.
No comment. Sorry.
Anyway, okay. Let's say everybody on the. Thanks everybody on for those of you who are suffering with all of us here on this particular one. All right, so how about this? This is another thing that kind of stood out to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I do remember I did see this movie in the theater. But even then, I was like, man, this CGI is really like not that great. It's like you get better. It looked like a video game character.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm like, at that point, I'm going, wow, what happened with the budget here? Because Universal, this is the same studio that gave us Jurassic Park, right? You can give us better looking CGI graphics than this. I was like, oh man, and with all due respect to the 10 college students who did this on their computers, in their dorms,
Well, the other thing is this has the same budget as Iron Man. It's not like Marvel went in and say, all right, Iron Man's going to be the big one and Hulk will be a small one. They were trying both of them. And it's just how they use the money. Because the CG effects in Iron Man still look great.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you watch it today, you're like, wow, this looks really good. I mean, they fell in love with this whole idea of, we're going to have the Hulk in the rain because it's so difficult to do, modeling, CGI modeling with rain effects. I'm like, oh.
But it did look really good when he danced in the puddle. That was swung around the lamppost.
You knew they were taking bets. Okay, what can we do here? Let's do that. But the Hulk gets struck by lightning when he's on top. Like, where the hell is that coming from? He gets angry because he gets struck by lightning at one point.
I'd be pretty pissed off if I got struck by lightning, if I'm being honest. I mean, not to defend this too much, but I get it. That's a relatable character moment, Elliot. Come on. No, the effects are, oh God, I'm angry thinking about this movie. Thanks a lot. I was going to have a perfectly fine Monday evening. And then I thought, Elliot's calling. Sure, why not? And now I'm mad again. Thanks so much. Hey, has anybody here ever met Lou Ferrigno?
I have.
Yeah, I saw him at a panel announcing this movie at New York Comic Con, but never met him one-to-one.
I've met him twice. Can't recommend it.
Yes, he is not the friendliest dude.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
Well, you sure he heard you?
I think. Oh, you know what, Brandon?
Maybe it felt like you were being ignored. I said hi. He didn't say anything.
No, I was in line for Dragon Con registration, and that may have been the year we met in person, Elliot, because we met.
I think I was there for that one time when you met him. Yeah,
and I turned around, like literally turned around, and he was right there, and I ran nose first into his chest, and he looked down at me. I'm not a tall man. He looked down at me. And he said, "You better watch where you're going," or something. And like he glared me down, and like that was. And then I had to stand in line in front of him for another 15 minutes. Then, on the way home from Dragon Con, we were all leaving in the airport. We were at the airport together, and he and I both got flagged for extra security. And they did the whole, they made us take our shoes off and do the chemical swab on the insides of our shoes and stuff. And he said, he told the guy, "Do you know who I am?" And the guy didn't know who he was. And that seemed to bother him as well.
Well, the Hulk doesn't even wear shoes.
And sometimes not even a shirt and not entire pants.
Sir, we're going to need you to keep your pants on for the duration of the flight. Yeah.
I'm thinking about somebody, because I remember, I have had encounters with him. I've also seen him get pretty prickly with people who just want to talk to him, like when he's at his booth.
Including my my ex-wife, yes.
Your ex-wife, yes. I think I remember that.
He wanted to talk to him about Return to Frogtown, and he did not wish to discuss that.
Nope. Wouldn't even take a picture with her. I think he wanted a charger to take a photo together.
We had just paid money for him to autograph something, and everybody has their booth rules. It's fine, but he was prickly. That's a good word.
Yeah.
I had a friend who asked Adam West about Lady Chatterley's Lover and had a very similar experience.
Nice. His finest work.
Yeah, and Adam West was shaking my hand at the time, and I felt his hand grip. And that's when I realized how big a man Adam West really was.
I've never met him. Is he a big guy? I didn't realize.
He was a big guy. He was like over 6 feet, and he was broad.
I once had John Delancey when I was trying to compliment him on how much I enjoyed his performance in Breaking Bad, because I didn't want to bring up any of the Star Trek stuff. I said, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to go off the beaten path. Oh, your character.
Who's he in Breaking Bad?
He was the
father of Jane.
Christian Ritter's dad.
Yeah.
Jessica Jones, yeah.
And after she dies, he has a bit of a breakdown on his job and causes the planes to crash at because he's the air traffic controller. And John Delancey looked at me like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? Whatever. I'm like, okay. None of this well, thank you. And really, that experience was something for me. I really enjoyed that set. I don't know. He's like, like, okay, sorry. I'll let you go back to the nerds. I'm going to talk about how much I love Q and all that other stuff.
I love that you separated yourself from the nerds in that story.
Yeah.
Like you could be with the nerds or be with Elliot. Like the Venn diagram was 2 separate circles.
Well, they touched. They touch, but they don't overlap.
They sure don't.
Oh my God!
So Elliot, you mentioned the casting of this, and who was coming back and who wasn't coming back. I remember when I saw the casting of this, it felt to me like the basic cable version of the Ang Lee Hulk, because it was like, oh, we won't get Jennifer Connelly, we'll get Liv Tyler. We won't get Sam Elliott, we'll get William Hurt. We won't get Eric Bana, we'll get Ed Norton. And at the time, it felt like, oh, this is going to be a step down, because when that Ang Lee Hulk came out, they thought it was going to be the movie of the year. Like they really pushed that movie. There was a Super Bowl commercial. It was the movie, and it almost felt like they were licking their wounds. And now, looking back, it's like, I don't know. I'd rather see a movie with William Hurt than Sam Elliott.
Well, they were like, oh, with Ang Lee, we're going to get an Oscar-winning director. We're going to give him carte blanche. He's going to take the movie and impart his vision, and it's going to be everything that we want it to be around award season. And then they made the Eternals.
Yeah. There are people that feel that way about No Time to Die as well.
Well, I did not want to die at the end of No Time to Die like I did at the end of Eternals.
Yeah.
When it comes to to the review, when we finally get to Eternals, I don't know if I'm going to want to watch it again.
Yeah, I'm not available for that episode.
It'll be 2 years from now, but Brandon's got something.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, but all those folks who talk about how great it is now, they're going to be the same folks that turn on it later. Just like you have all those folks who are totally talking up. How could we have treated Andrew Garfield like this? We need to get another amazing Spider-Man movie with Andrew Garfield. Same nerds who said, it's just terrible. These movies are horrible. Why did they have Andrew Garfield? Even though he himself was a pretty decent Spider-Man. It's going to turn. It's all going to turn.
They're both right. Andrew Garfield was a great Spider-Man in bad movies.
That's right. That's what I've always said, too. I like Andrew Garfield. Those are not good movies.
No. I mean, a lot of people feel that way about Pierce Brosnan. People like me. Great Bond, bad scripts.
Man, you gotta be stirring shit up, don't you, John?
I got a Hulk next to me.
I've got 2 Bond. Oh, I've got a Ranker. That's what I've got.
But he's not in the frame now. Now things change.
Anyway, okay. So the movie was kind of a miss. All right, we'll admit it was kind of a miss. What could have made it more? What could have made it more of a hit? I mean, what did this movie need that it was missing?
Well, more of a hit or a better movie?
I'll take a better movie right now.
Yeah, because more of a hit, I don't know. Like more of a hit would have been they didn't make the Ang Lee Hulk, and then people would have been like, "Oh, a Hulk movie," and they would have gone to it at the level that they went to both movies combined. I think what would make it a better movie would be stakes, because I realized when we get to that Harlem fight, when I was watching it this time, watching Hulk and Abomination fight, I'm like, well, what is this about? Like, what are the stakes? Who's in danger? It's just it's just two monsters punching each other. And when one wins, what does that mean for anybody else? The Hulk's not a hero. He's just the monster that wins. And I think that's why you walk away from it thinking, well, I don't really care.
Zach Penn was kind of the hot name back then when he penned this particular script. He did a few things, so it wasn't like he had a writer's strike or anything looming over him, because the script is really uneven. At one point, it just kind of like, again, after the first half hour, it goes off its rails. You're a writer, Brandon. What would you have done?
How dare you? No, listen. This is one of those movies that I think someday will be collected in a giant multi-disc collection called Studio Notes the Musical. Right? I mean, like you can hear the studio notes, right? Like, no, there should be a fight right here, and like this is how we should lay out the beats. Well, what about the story? No, this is how we lay out the beats, because it is. And I mean, I've literally worked for Universal. Right. Like I understand, like, and I'm not talking about how they handle scripts. I'm talking about their theme park attractions, like it does. You said that earlier. It feels like a theme park attraction and not the good ones most of the time. Right. Like, it's just like, here's this moment now where we have to have this new and exciting action feature. And here's, it's just beats and no story. And they kind of adjust the story to go with the beats. And that's it. Like, it's just,
That's a great point, Brendan. And I feel like they designed those beats in reaction to the Ang Lee Hulk. It's like, well, we didn't have this, so we have to have this. We didn't have this, then we have to have this. And then they just had this string of beats, all of which were not the last Hulk movie.
And he beat them to Gamma Poodles, so they had to really flex to something else.
Oh my God. Forgot about the Gamma Poodles.
I never can.
I'll never forget Nick Nolte biting an electrical cord.
That part I remember. I just forgot the Gamma Poodles.
They made figures of the Gamma Poodles.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
It was in the Hulk action figure line, the Gamma Poodles.
New band name. I called it.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, what is with this quiet guy in the corner? What is his deal? Like, is he like, why does he never speak? What's your deal, man?
Well, this is the thing. Dave is me right now. When it came to all the Bond movies, he was kind of like doing most of the talking, and I was absorbing everything. Whereas here, because he's not as well versed with all the Marvel stuff, he just is learning stuff. So I'm thinking by the time we get into phase 2, he'll be a lot more talkative.
I wanted to make sure Elliot wasn't keeping you hostage somewhere, or like, also I'm gonna be out of here in 8 minutes. So this has been fun. But
well, it's all about the company, Brandon.
It really truly is. I'm glad I met the two of you, and Elliot, it was great to see you again. I wish you well.
It sounds like a goodbye, like not even like see you later.
I'd say I want
to. The movie wasn't great.
Yeah. No, listen. Is it the worst Marvel movie?
Right now, I hate to say it. Right now, for me, the worst one is Eternals.
Real that bad?
Wow.
For me,
Thor: Dark World. Thor: Dark World just.
Thor
Dark off and it crashes into the road and then drags itself.
Even Thor: Dark World, because I remember the only redeeming thing for me about Thor: Dark World was it came out at the same time as Man of Steel, and I remember going, "Wow, Thor: Dark World is doing Man of Steel better than Man of Steel." They had two very similar plots. It was almost, it's like there's a lot going on. Even the final act, it's like, holy crap! It's like were they watching each other's dailies when they were filming? Because it felt like everything was mirroring. It felt like a Volcano Dante's Peak deal going on.
Like Ants Bug's Life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, well, it's not that bad. So again, at least with Thor: Dark World, it had some humor and something. And I'm a Thor fan. I like Thor.
It had Chris O'Dowd sing Seabass. I live for that moment. I can get up and leave right after that.
Sure.
And it does waste Chris Eccleston. I will say that it utterly wastes.
Well,
him.
Chris Eccleston turned down the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who when Matt Smith and David Tennant teamed.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he never wants to do Doctor Who again, but he said he wasn't doing that so he could do Thor: Dark World, and he just walks around in makeup, and he's completely overdubbed. There's no reason for him to be in it.
Yeah. Well, just like Guardians, first Guardians wastes Lee Pace as Ronan the Accuser.
Yeah.
So it's like there are a lot of, I guess that'll always be the thing about the Marvel movies for the most part, is that they have weaker villains. You know, they have really great heroes, but until you get to Thanos, there aren't any great villains in these movies.
I still love Jeff Bridges, but he never comes back.
Great foil. I wouldn't even say the best supervillain, though. I mean, you need villains on the level of the heroes. You know, I mean,
he was in that film. I mean, you know, he was the mentor character. He knew as much about weapons as Tony did. He was definitely his match physically when he built the Ironmonger suit. It's just that they didn't keep him. Like there were places he could go after that.
Oh, definitely.
Although I don't mold of killing the villain at the end of the movie.
Although I wouldn't say the Ironmonger suit was better. It was behind because you give Tony, you know, Tony's problem was he was using the old arc light reactor. That was like at half power. You give him full power on any suit, he would have, you know, wiped the floor with him. You know, so that'll always be that. But you're right, the character itself, and that's the problem. And I'm hoping as they move forward, as they've probably learned from, you know, No Way Home, that we can get these villains, add dimensions to them, keep them around longer. Like with Spider-Man Homecoming, they don't kill the Vulture at the end. They keep him around. They keep Michael Keaton around to pop, you know, maybe come back and add complications to the heroes' lives. You know, that's something that I'm hoping they decide to do with the villains in the movies going forward. Because up to this point, I'm trying to remember which villain really survives going forward.
Loki.
Yeah, but even then, they turn around. They're trying to make him a good guy now, which is annoying as fuck. But you know,
yeah, not many survive
in No Way Home.
Yeah,
I said I was surprised Michael Keaton was not in No Way Home.
Me too.
I was kind of waiting for him. He is in Morbius because they show him in the trailer.
Yeah.
I know you got to go, Brandon, but before you go, can you tell us a little bit about where you are, where people can follow you, what they can see, what you're up to?
Sure. I'm on Facebook because I'm an old man. You can find me listed there under my name. I've been putting out some ambient electronic instrumental EPs under the name Later Humans. You can find that at laterhumans.bandcamp.com. And I'm currently making cool stuff for Amazon Alexa, and that's just about as much as I can possibly say. Yeah, no, that's kind of it for now.
Brandon was in a band called SD6. I still have that album around here somewhere. That was the old theme song for my old YouTube show.
Oh my God! It totally was. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Really good stuff, my friend. Really good stuff.
Hey, I'm glad to see you on the internet, and it doesn't come with any sort of notification or alert. It's fantastic.
Well, you just wait till you see me on your Blink camera.
on my what?
Your Blink camera. You know
I don't know what that is.
You work for Amazon.
I was really hoping, Brandon, you'd pull us through that reference.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm like, oh, that's an inside joke between Brandon and Elliot. The old Blink camera bit.
It is so in, only I get it.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Well, glad you're still keeping at it, buddy. Anyway, this has been really great. I'd love to come back and talk about a better movie sometime. Literally any movie. What I think of.
There's another 17 movies, Brandon. So just throw out a title and we'll say yes.
Great.
I'm a big fan of the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Or the Avengers.
That's a good one. What would you do if we put you on Thor: Dark World next?
Oh. I'd send an RSVP, and that would be it. In the form of a suicide note. Fun fact: I got to see the Avengers in a private theater, and I actually got to put the film on the machine.
Oh, nice.
But that's a story for another time. Thanks for having me. This has been great. I look forward to how the rest of this turns out for you.
All right, buddy.
You other two, you're very, very brave and very patient. That's to be celebrated.
All right. See you, Brandon.
Bye-bye.
Great talking to you, Brandon.
Kicking him out. There he goes. He's gone. Blinking, he's gone. Blink cameras. It's Amazon's security cams. The little cameras that you set up for. It's a blink.
Kind of like the Ring doorbell.
Yes, but they call it.
They look like Hal.
Yeah, but it's. And I have one, and I thought he would don't like because the dude works for Amazon. For Christ's sakes.
If I finally have the whole bottom of the screen to myself, I could stretch out a little bit.
Oh, look at that. That's why you were so quiet. You felt pinned in.
Yeah.
Now you're drinking.
I'll even
I'm drinking a blackberry cucumber sparkling water, and I'm drinking it because the can is green and purple.
Well,
This is a coincidence.
No, I polished off the last of my dead drop bourbon, and I've moved on to Fresca.
Oh, nice.
Because
I thought you were drinking Baja Blast. I just saw the bottle. It's like that like neon turquoise color.
Yeah. It's the new, but they have the new Baja Blast with booze in it. So
saw that.
I had yesterday at practice. I had 2 left-hand milk stouts. Then I came home and I had a triple Belgian ale that my uncle brewed. So tonight I am drinking nothing.
Smart. Anyway, yeah, it's funny that I think it also speaks to the Incredible Hulk that we've kind of run out of things that we can talk about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
This could be an hour.
It's like, that's what happened. I mean, Liv. Okay, I'll just get into a couple little nitpicks, if for what it's worth. There's that scene where Bruce and Betty are gonna, they're in the hotel together, and it looks like they're gonna get amorous, and Bruce says he can't because he has his little watch thingy that says what his heart rate is. And he can't let his heart rate go up too high because if it gets up too high, he's going to turn into the Hulk. Totally forgetting that we had seen him running in that extensive chase scene in the very beginning of the movie where he's leaping across the rooftops in of this place in Brazil. And don't tell me that at some point his heart rate didn't hit the top part, the top level doing all that.
Didn't he keep checking his monitor though? Didn't he keep checking his pulse and slowing down? I thought he was trying to keep himself below that line. And also, Elliot, I don't know how much you've run in your past, but jogging and having sex are very different heart rates.
Well,
I'm excited to run.
Like I will tell you this, and maybe it has something to do with the shape I'm in. My heart rate definitely goes up higher when I'm jogging.
Well, that's just because you're lazy.
Right, exactly.
It's a give and take relationship.
I mean, there are things you can do to keep the heart rate down during sex. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you can just lie
have
there.
to do all the work.
So your advice for Bruce Banner is just lie there.
Just lie there. Come on, you haven't had sex in God knows how long, and it's Liv Tyler, please. So yeah, that was my bit. But again, the movie itself kind of. I was trying so hard to find it, like on a streaming service or even for free on YouTube. I did find it for free on YouTube, but it was it was dubbed like in Portuguese or something like that. And I was thinking, maybe I'm just going to stick with
total
it.
sense.
Yeah, I'll just stick with this. I don't need to spend the $4, which I ultimately ended up doing, so I could watch it on Amazon Prime.
Well, here's my question about I'm thinking about the Stan Lee cameo because they show him as the guy that drinks Hulk blood, but you never see him again.
Yep.
I'm wondering, the pizza place is called Stanley's. Do you think they wrote that for Stan and then realized that was way too many lines to give him? Because the guy who plays him is an older guy with a white mustache, and he's like really connected to them. You don't know anything about his history, and he doesn't come back, but he's like, "Oh, I always cared about you kids. Sit down." I'm wondering if they were like, this would be great for Stan because he's the creator of the characters and he loves them, and he comes in, and maybe that's when they were like, Stan can say one line.
When did he do Mallrats though?
That's before. I mean, that's still 90s, isn't it?
Is it the 90s, early 90s, late 90s? Because he has a substantial role in that.
Yeah, but he plays Stan Lee.
Yeah, but so he can play Stan Lee in this too. And again, there weren't that many lines.
I don't know. I mean, it's a couple of scenes, and he's got this range. That's what surprised me. Watching it this time, I'm like, why is it called Stanley's? Why is Stan Lee in this, and why isn't he the guy that owns a pizza place?
Or were they thinking maybe that was a bit much? Like that would have taken you out, of the whole thing. But again, there was so much about this movie that I was like, it wasn't like it was a serious drama that I needed to be involved in the characters and in their emotional, their emotional quest as they're trying to unravel the unfairness that is the universe around.
Yeah, no, it's a movie where monsters punch each other. The problem is once you get to the point where they're punching each other, you've lost interest.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people hated Kong versus Godzilla.
I loved Kong versus Godzilla.
The Kong versus Godzilla, for me, it had 8 times where my son and I both went, ooh, that was worth the price of admission.
That's all you wanted. Yeah.
That's all I wanted. And that's all I wanted from this. But by the time they fight, you're just like, all right.
That's true. Because I'm there going, okay, what were the scenes where Ed Norton was being a pill?
Well, he wouldn't have sex with Liv Tyler. In my book.
Because you're like
Eagle
okay.
Mortensen had a hard time not having sex with Liv Tyler.
Because after this movie was done, it was like, they were like, no, that's not it. That's it. We're not having, Ed Norton's not doing any more of these.
Well, there was a lot of behind the scenes drama because Ed Norton was listed as a screenwriter. He had a lot of changes. It was very clear that he was not going to be the kind of team player they wanted going forward. So they didn't want him back. And here's the other thing, Dave, you mentioned this very early on. So I want to ask you, Ed Norton's Bruce Banner is really different than Mark Ruffalo's. What would Ed Norton be in the Avengers?
What do you mean?
Joss Whedon's Avengers, same script. How does it change?
I feel like in general, once Mark Ruffalo took over, they made the Hulk a little bit more of a humorous character, or at least they made Bruce Banner more humorous. And I think that probably plays to Mark Ruffalo's strengths a little bit better. Like I think he may be a little bit better, more believable as a comedic actor, whereas I think Edward Norton, although Edward Norton can be very funny, I buy more as sort of like a sort of tortured Bruce Banner who's really struggling with like what's inside of him, and so that we talked about the different energy that Edward Norton would have brought if he had continued playing him over multiple films. And it's actually, you kind of put me on the spot because it's been a while since I've watched the first Avengers, and I don't remember a ton about Bruce Banner's, his scenes or a lot of his lines in that movie. But certainly there would be a little bit of a shift in kind of the tone of how he was portrayed, or how he played the character in at least that film, and then of course the other ones going forward. But it's just like there's no way of actually knowing. It's all purely speculative. Of maybe they would have started to write the Hulk, say, hey, we want to make the movie, make the character a little bit more lighthearted, make his appearances more sort of like the idea of this big kind of dumb monster that doesn't really, just kind of yells and pounds his chest. It's kind of inherently funny in a way, even though there's something deeper meaning to the character and everything he's kind of struggling with. But maybe they would have said, we're going to start writing him a little bit more comedically or more comically. So that would have you know, maybe Ragnarok would have been the same. He just would have had Ed Norton instead of Mark Ruffalo. But it's impossible to know for sure.
Yeah, Elliot, how do you think the tone would have shifted in that role?
See, that's the thing. I know it would have shifted because from what I understand, how things were on the set of the Avengers, Joss Whedon already had his hands full with Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. himself, who has admitted he hates doing the script. Like, he'll get the script and he intentionally goes off of it. He wants to do what's in that scene. So he might think, I know what the characters are trying to say, but I think I can come up with a better way of saying it. And he's done that with other actors where he gets other actors to go along with him. If he has a scene partner, he says, "Yeah, come on, this is what we're going to do." Michelle Monaghan talks about that. Like the time when Robert Downey Jr. said, "Yeah, we're not doing that." So we got this scene because we're not doing that. Just follow my lead. And she's like, "What?" So already having him in that mode, and now you have Ed Norton, who, for all you know, he's got to stick with the script, but it's the script he wants written.
Yeah, but it sounds like from what I heard about Ed Norton, he's rewriting the script.
Yeah.
And then brings you the pages.
Yeah. So you'd have that, you'd be dealing with that on the set. And I don't see, with that kind of tension, a whole hell of a lot of humor, coming out of that.
I also think that Ed Norton has an intensity that really works here, but it's a color that I think clashes up against Robert Downey Jr. And because they both have that intensity, whereas, say, in Infinity War, which we'll get to someday, Benedict Cumberbatch also has that prickly energy, but they found a balance, and in fact, structured the movie to put those two together, rubbing against each other. I also think that Mark Ruffalo, has this resignation and this almost sad sackness about Bruce Banner. I feel like I think it's still the same character, because I feel like it's an arc where this movie is Bruce Banner like, I'm going to beat the Hulk. I'm not going to be the Hulk. I'm going to be super focused and never be the Hulk. And then you realize that doesn't work. And by the time you get to Mark Ruffalo, he's like, what am I going to do? I'm the Hulk. He's like, look, eventually I'm just going to be a Hulk. And he basically spends the whole movie doing that. It was like, guys, don't make me a Hulk. And I think, but that's a color in the acting palette that no one is playing at all in the MCU. And that's what makes him so unique. Does it carry a movie? I don't know that it does. But you can pick him up and put him in Thor Ragnarok and playing against Thor. You can put him in She-Hulk. There's a lot of good places to put that type of character. And I don't see Ed Norton ever playing that type of character.
Yeah.
He does bring the lighter tone. He brings the humor. I mean, that's another thing too, that when you look at the Marvel one-shots on Disney Plus, they have the 3 that they did for Ragnarok. Of course, you have the one where Bruce Banner and Thor are at a coffee shop, an outdoor coffee shop, talking, and Thor's like, "Why isn't anybody calling me?" And Tony Stark calls him, and he starts talking for a moment. He doesn't want to talk to Thor. Thor goes, "I don't have a phone. Tell him to send a raven."
It's very Taika.
Right. So it's like, okay, see there, that works. I don't see that happening with Ed Norton's Bruce Banner. It's not happening. Yeah. Have you seen Ed Norton do anything outside? I think he did a Woody Allen movie, right? But
he's hosted SNL.
He's great. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch that because don't get me wrong. I appreciate Ed Norton as an actor. I think he's great. I mean, everything I've seen him in, for the most part, with the exception of this, he's very good. This just got, the problem is that him wanting to ground this character took it to melodrama.
Yeah,
it was like too much. There's a scene where, the aforementioned scene at Stanley's, right? Where Liv Tyler, Betty sees him. He walks out the door, he inadvertently walks in. They meet eyes. He's like, "Oh shit, I gotta get out of here!" And he runs out the back, and she's like, "What?" And then she runs after him. Bruce, I can't see. Where is he? Oh, the rain starts to fall. And then you pan over and you see Bruce is hiding behind the dumpster. He doesn't want Betty to see him. Oh, they will never be seen together. Oh, he wants to protect her. Cut to the next scene. He's walking down the street. She picks him up in his car. I mean, come on. I mean, seriously?
Well, I didn't make eye contact. It's the social anxiety that Bruce Banner has.
Oh, shit.
Like, he can go to the ATM. He's not going to the teller.
I know that feeling, actually.
As we are three men doing a podcast from our own homes.
I think Ed Norton could have actually, and I like Benedict Cumberbatch. I think he could have played a good Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Although not better than Benedict Cumberbatch. Benedict Cumberbatch is like that Patrick Stewart Professor X level of casting.
Yeah.
Well, I think Ed Norton does play a magician in a movie. Is it called The Magician? If I remember.
I think it's The Prestige, isn't it?
No, that's Hugh Jackman.
That's not him with Hugh Jackman.
No,
That's
Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale, The Prestige. That's a Chris Nolan movie.
Right.
That's The Illusionist, right?
The Illusionist, yes. That came out at the same time as, again, it's a Dante's Peak volcano.
It's
deal.
20 years later, and I'm still confused.
So it's like the same kind of movie. And you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess, it's Ed Norton doing a magician of whatever. So, yeah, he could have. I mean, Benedict, I like what you said, John. Yeah, putting Doctor Strange and Iron Man together just for those few moments so they can get that friction that they had for a while that you couldn't have anymore between Tony and, say, Steve.
Right.
So that's you got to come up with a new dynamic and play them together. Now that's gone. So who is it that who's Strange going to be playing off of in the future? Who knows?
Yeah, see, it still kills me. I understand why Robert Downey Jr. wanted to leave, but it still kills me that I will never see a live action Tony Stark and Reed Richards inventing something.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, we're getting a Fantastic Four movie, but we don't have an Iron Man.
Yeah. It's funny because the MCU, even the Marvel comics right now, I've been picking up some stuff, reading it, getting some collections, on Comixology. It is so far removed. I mean, they have like booted and rebooted in a way these characters, invented them and reinvented them so many times. I hardly recognize them anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like with the Marvel Cinematic Universe for a while. It's like, these aren't the characters I remember growing up with. I like what they're doing with them, but they do seem like, quote unquote variants, of different versions of the characters I've known, which is fine. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not I don't have a problem with them, making MJ, Zendaya, and I don't have a problem with them, turning, changing a lot of the Warriors 3, which were my favorite Thor characters, the way they reinvented them for the Thor films. I didn't have a problem with that. But it's so far removed from what I remember of these characters as a kid. It's like they feel like in many ways different characters. They just have the same names.
Yeah. And eventually I think there's just been so many versions of them now that I've given up on being precious about it.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want my Spider-Man to be in an Iron Man suit, but do I like those movies? Yeah. And is he in an Iron Man suit now? Well, no. So if I don't like something, it'll probably be rebooted away in another 5-10 years.
And it's the same thing with the comics. They do so many things in the comics now. I mean, for me, it's always been one of my dreams to one day write for Marvel Comics. I've always wanted to write Spider-Man. Spider-Man's like my dude. I would have any character I could write in Marvel would be Spider-Man. But now I'm like, I would have no idea where I could take him or where he even is. His character has been thrown up, down, left, right. They've done so much with that character. I'm like,
but to the point to the point it doesn't even matter what they do with him. We were just talking about this on our non-MCU review, Captivated Comics, about how Marvel last week came out with this big ad campaign. They were like, John Romita Jr. is drawing Spider-Man again, and we're going to have a new #1, and it's this story. What did Peter do that's so bad? And it looks really interesting. But right now, in the Spider-Man book, Peter is in a coma and Ben Reilly is Spider-Man. Marvel no longer cares that story is going to end. They don't think the reader cares. You know, I was thinking 10, 20 years ago, they would be like, they would never say what's going to happen at Ben Reilly. They would never tell us how that story is going to end. Now it's just like, here's 19 issues we're doing of this, and then we're going to do another thing next year. You know, which is why everything gets another #1.
I don't know. Well,
this movie depressed us. Sucked all, for something that like runs around and breaks everything. We're 3 Bruce Banners.
Yeah, it ran around and it broke our spirits. That's what it did.
We're all just gonna wander off on down the highway backpack
in the rain. And then the girl that we love is gonna pick us up, and we're gonna thank her by A, not having sex with her, B, almost getting her killed, and then C, completely forgetting about her for a redhead.
I think you just described college for me.
Oh, you got to date a redhead? I've never been able to date a redhead.
Oh yeah.
Sweet. All right, next week it's next show. It's going to be Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2. Who's going to be joining us for that one?
Do we have anyone picked out yet?
I don't know that we do. We have Captain America, Thor, and Avengers all ready to go. But I don't know that we have Iron Man. And I was starting to forget the order they came out in. Iron Man 2, the movie that was not supposed to be. Because they were going to give all the Avengers one movie, then do Avengers. And Iron Man was such a big hit, they hastily put this one together. So what's the result? We're going to grab a 4th person and find out.
We will. Or maybe just the 3 of us. So Dave can get a word in every once in a while. And not just be the quiet one in the corner. Good evening, Michelle. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being with us.
Michelle's a good friend of Captivated Comics.
Great to see her. If you're watching us on the YouTube page, thanks for being here. Please make sure you give us a thumbs up.
You know what? Maybe Michelle wants to talk about Iron Man 2.
Michelle, would you like to be our guest next week? You can talk with us about Iron Man 2. I'd be happy to have you. Also, if you're watching us on the YouTube page, please subscribe. Please give us a thumbs up and share. And if you're watching us on Twitch, please subscribe to our page. We are on all these channels, making our fun little show available in every format possible.
Michelle has just said sure, and Michelle is not a redhead, but she's an Italian from Brooklyn. And as I like to point out, and she had her own reality show on Oprah's channel for about 6 episodes.
Oh wow! Okay, Michelle, you will be joining us next week. I'm sorry, not next week. In 2 weeks for Iron Man 2. So your assignment, should you choose to accept it, is to watch Iron Man 2 and be ready to discuss it with us in 2 Mondays. Okay. So the next one is Iron Man 2. Then after that will be
Thor, and then Captain America.
And then Captain America. And then we have the Avengers. And I know we will be joined by your Caffeinated Comics co-host Stephen Brown for that one. It's going to be Shaken Not Heard meets Caffeinated Comics. It's going to be like we're bringing the whole team together.
It is. It's going to be. We're going to assemble. We also have, as I said, Michelle is now booked for our next episode, and then I believe we're going to have. I think I might be switching them. I believe we're having Mike Lawrence, comedian Mike Lawrence, who's a writer for Weekend Update, is going to come on to talk about Captain America. And when I first met Mike outside a comedy club, we had an argument about inkers for 20 minutes. so he knows his stuff. And then after that, we will have head writer of Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, Mike Drucker, who is also wrote a novel about Silent Hill and is put me in an annual of Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man, and no one ever says his name in the script.
Wow.
Yeah, so I have it framed on my wall. Character doesn't look a thing like me, but he said in the script the name was Clark.
Sweet.
So that's our lineup for phase 1.
Yeah, and we've got lots of folks who are anxious to get into phase 2. We're going to have some other friends from radio and media, Julie DeCaro, former sports writer, sports personality, and author. Connor McKnight is coming back. Connor McKnight's going to be joining us again, as well as Lauren Lapka. Lauren Lapka of WGN Radio is going to be coming back to talk about, I want to say she would love to talk about one of the Guardians movies. So that should be fun. So we have lots of guests on board to talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But this is the first time, I think, and maybe, I don't know, maybe this will happen again. This is the first time we've actually booked a guest on the show as the show is going. Michelle says, don't be too impressed. Michelle, I'm already impressed. You had a reality show. I mean, that's it. Even though she's not a redhead, that's okay. We'll accept you. She's in, you're on board. Love to have you. All right. John, what's coming up next week in Caffeinated Comics?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, this past week we talked about Peacemaker, which is a controversial and really interesting show. We just covered Book of Boba Fett. So really it's about what's going to be happening in the news. We talked a little bit about John Maynard Jr. Rejoining Spider-Man, and as you and I discussed, Hasbro is making new Indiana Jones figures.
Yes.
In preparation for the new movie, and from what I've heard from everyone, they will be Star Wars Black style.
Yes. Yes. Because that you can sell them for more. You know, you get more money. Put them in that nice black packaging. The black.
And Hasbro's done it with every license. I mean, every license is basically Marvel Legends now, because you have Marvel Legends, you have Star Wars Black, you have G.I. Joe Classified. They're all that 6-inch multi-posable style. They, from what they're saying, it should be a mix of all 5 films, which is kind of how they did the 3 3/4 back in 2008. So I'm in for all of it.
Sweet. And Dave, what are we talking about on Shaken Not Heard next week?
I'm not sure yet.
That's how we roll. We just right before we go on air, what are we talking about? I believe it's going to be one of two things. We wanted to do the Bond girls, but our Bond girl guests are unable to make it. So I'm guessing we'll probably do the Bond themes.
Yeah, that seems like a good plan.
The Bond themes. But we're going to have to work the schedule around so our guests can be on for the Bond theme. So we'll see how that goes. It should still be fun.
You know, the moment Shaken Not Heard does the Austin Powers episode, we know you're done. That's it. We've hit bedrock digging.
I forgot to mention the Kingsman is going to be on streaming soon. On I want to say it was on Disney, not Disney, HBO Max, one of those. So we will be talking about the Kingsman.
Now, those movies are great.
And I know that Lizzie Sebastian, who will be on to talk about the Bond themes, loves those films, says she will come back to talk about the Kingsman series.
I haven't seen The King's Man yet. I heard it didn't do well, but it was good.
Yeah, that one, pandemic, right?
Which good, which starred M.
Starred M. And Alan Moore is in this one. Yes.
And Strawberry Fields, Agent Strawberry Fields.
Oh, yeah, Jim Arneson.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I swear, either Alan Moore is Rasputin or Rasputin is Alan Moore. It's one of those. So we'll see. So, okay, Susan says we should do the Bond themes. The Bond themes it is. All right. Anything else before we go? Any last thoughts we wanted to offer?
See Hulk if you want to.
But why would you want to?
You like the Hulk? If you like the Hulk, he's in it.
Well, it's funny because I'm watching this movie, and I'm like, because I kept thinking video games. I kept thinking this all looks like a video game sequence to me, and it led me to think. Right now, the majority of kids, I say, anyone under 20 to me is a kid. Good night, Michelle. The majority of the kids, the young folk that I know that are into these characters now, know them from the video games or the animated series. They're not reading the comic books.
But to be fair, and this could be a whole topic, when I was young, I knew the Marvel heroes from the animated series. Like I watched Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends and The Incredible Hulk Hour. So when I first picked up an issue of Amazing Spider-Man, I knew who the characters were and I knew who the villains were. And that's a lot of what these movies are doing. They're reaching that much wider audience than comics will ever reach.
We also didn't have video games and movies to the level that we have now. I mean,
we did have the Electric Company though.
And a Spider-Man
just to read in Ang Lee style panels.
Yeah. And Spider-Man talked in whistles. I think it was related to any of the parents from the Peanuts cartoons.
Yeah. There was a lot of duck calls too. They'd be like, he'd be like, a clue.
All right. Well, there we go. So, don't watch it. Play a Hulk video game. I remember the video game, though, that came out after this movie. Remember? Came out on the PlayStation.
Everything in it, couldn't you?
I'm sorry?
Couldn't you smash every single thing?
Everything. Yeah, there was a whole thing. That was the thing about the game that you could smash everything. So, and it was on the PlayStation 2, if I remember correctly. All right. I think this movie, this conversation, this movie didn't give us enough. It just didn't. It's too bad. But, hey.
But this is what we thought all Marvel movies were going to be, going into Iron Man, and this is what we assumed they would be out of Iron Man. And then, as we'll talk the next few episodes, things are going to change.
The quality is going to jump considerably. Although for that, I'm gonna point to Joss Whedon, because Phase 2 is basically Joss Whedon overseeing everything.
It's nice to point to Joss Whedon because everyone else is pointing at Joss Whedon.
Right. Well, what are you gonna do?
We do both.
Ooh,
hey, when you point at someone, you get three fingers pointing back at yourself. Well, no, actually,
they're all curled up into my palm.
Yeah, they're my palm, and they have a thumb over this way.
I point at you with my pinky, and then it's a web shooter.
Dave, where can we see you on social media?
I am on Instagram at Pinto_Noir.
Are you looking forward to Iron Man 2?
I am. I actually like that one. I know a lot of people aren't a big fan of it, but I am not a big fan, but I am a fan of that movie. It's better than this one.
It's true. It is true. And this one has more Agent Coulson.
Yeah. Yep.
It occurred to me, Hulk would have been way better had Agent Coulson been in somehow, like they had gotten him involved some way, just to get us a little humor to like
liaison to Thunderbolt Ross.
Yes, that would have been fun.
Well, they didn't know in Iron Man that he would click that well. I mean, at that point, he was third banana on New Adventures with Old Christine. And the hook in Iron Man was like, oh, he's actually a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. So it wasn't until he'll be in the post-credit scene for Iron Man 2.
Right. Oh, and by the way, for those who haven't seen it, watch. He has he's in 3 episodes, 3 Marvel one-shots. One where he has a significant fight scene, a really cool action scene, which I'd never seen before. It was the prequel to Thor, which is fun. So yeah, but Clark Gregg can do anything. And it's funny because there's a character, an actor from The West Wing, from the later seasons of The West Wing, shows up in a Marvel one shot, and only an uber nerd like me can spot characters. I mean, we already had Bradley Woodford, who is Peggy Carter's boss, the chauvinistic boss in that series. But it's like, oh, look at that, another guy. The guy who worked for Bradley Whitford in The West Wing is now in here. How do I get a support? I just want to be a supporting role. I want to be one of those guys who shows up for 10 minutes, then leaves, in these movies. Just like friggin' Horatio Sands, The Mandalorian.
Well, once again, you're comparing yourself to Horatio Sands, and I don't think it's healthy.
Yeah, that's in a lot of different ways. And that meant something different. That meant something different a year ago.
Yeah, so did Joss Whedon.
Just be true. And John, where can we see you on social media?
I'm at Not in My Book on Twitter and Instagram. You can also follow the Caffeinated Comics podcast. If you are watching this now, the audio will release each week afterwards, and the alternate weeks when Shaken Not Heard is happening, we are covering all the news that's Fit to Geek with my co-host Stephen Brown, and that's available anywhere you find podcasts and as part of the Radio Misfits podcast network, who treats us all so well.
Yeah, you do. So just tell your smart speaker, play the Caffeinated Comics podcast, and then boom, you'll get us. So I'm Elliot Serrano. And of course, you can always see us here on the MCU ReVU Facebook page, YouTube page, and Twitch. You can email us, mcurevu@gmail.com. Also, check out our Instagram, MCU_ReVU, for previews of following episodes, as well as, funny stuff that I find from time to time. Plus, I'm practicing my graphic design, so you might see, new. Oh, I'm gonna by golly, I'm gonna get us a banner, a background, a logo that doesn't get covered up every time we're all on screen. Thank you, Lehman. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. As always, we appreciate your support. We appreciate you being around. Until next time, for John Clark and David Pinto, I'm Elliot Serrano. Be good. Take care of each other. Stay warm this week. We'll see you next time.